Okay. Good morning, folks. Thank you for coming to the pre-bid meeting for Austin's Indian Brook Water Filtration Plant. Today, I'm going to introduce some folks to you that are part of the Austin team for this construction project. This is a non-mandatory pre-bid meeting, as you all know, but we appreciate you attending nonetheless. This will be followed by 3 options for a mandatory meeting in the coming months, those details of which we're going to get into a little later. I'm going to do some introductions at this table now, and then I'm going to turn it over to start the formal part of the presentation. I believe there's an attendance sheet, if it hasn't already, floating around. So I ask that if you are here today and you haven't signed it, that you do sign the attendance sheet, and then we'll go from there. With me today, to my right, is Chris Rhombus from Hazen and Sawyer, the design engineer, and will be the design engineer, project engineer for this project. I am Paul Fraioli. I'm the Public Works Director and Engineer for the Village of Ossining. To my left is Karen Doherty. She is the Contract Construction Administrator in the Department of Public Works here. To her left is Andrew Teese. He's the Water Superintendent. This is his project in every way, so he will take over after I'm done talking to introduce the technical components of the project and why exactly we're doing this. Before I go to the other side of the table, I will tell you that this is being taped right now. And if anybody wants to view it after the fact, or you have subcontractors or other primes that you want to draw that attention to, this will be viewable again on the village's website, this presentation. Continuing on, starting at the head of the table here is Jamie Hoffman. She is the project manager out of the manager's office for the Village of Ossining. Michael Kozier is with Arcadis Engineering, and he is going to be the construction manager for this project, and he will have his staff located on site. Arcadis is going to be the CM to work along with Hazen and Sawyer, who will be doing the office component of that work. Tom Husband is going to be the field resident engineer, and he will have an assistant with him as well, who's not with us today, but Tom comes with a myriad of experience, particularly in the water and wastewater industry and very large scale construction projects as this, including, oversight of all 4 primes for a long time. So we're happy to have him in the field. And last but not least is Michael Broder, who many of you may know with Hazen and Sawyer, is the project manager, vice president at Hazen and Sawyer's New York office, and he headed up the design team who designed this project for us. They are very experienced in these projects, and we look forward to implementing his design in the field. So thank you again for attending, and if you're watching this on video at a later date, remember that there are 1 of 3 mandatory pre-bid meetings that you must attend if you wish to submit a bid. Meetings outside of those 3 options will not be entertained, and we'll get a little bit more into the details of all the ongoings during this bidding phase with the rest of the presentation. So with that, I'm going to turn it over now to Andrew Teese, the village's water superintendent.
Thanks, Paul. So just to give a little overview of what we have on site right now, the existing plant is a 4 MGD facility that's operating on site right now, that during this construction until it's actually switched over to the new plant, which obviously is a 7 MGD facility, little different technology, or a lot different technology. It can't be interrupted. It'll be a standalone plant that'll be built and basically on its own. And when it's ready to switch over, it'll be distribution pipes out in the driveway that'll be tied into, and then the raw water that gets pulled into the new facility. But during that time, there will be testing, and there will be running 2 facilities at the same time. The old plant was built in 1986, put online. We started this design in 2016. It's taken a long time, but through all the regulations and what we've dealt with for the last few years and water quality changes, this will bring us up to where we need to be in the future. And I guess you guys can take over from here.
Just a couple of things to add. There's two people who are not present here. Karen Tori is the village manager. She's gonna be coming in.
Yeah, she just texted me. She'll be here in about half an hour.
Okay. And Seda. And two other things before I turn it over to Tom. I'm just going to ask that everyone here silence their cell phones if you haven't already. There will be opportunity at the end for contact to ask questions. We have a lot of items that we want to cover. I'm just asking that you hold the questions to the end so that we don't get off track in what we're trying to present here and efficiently. So I'm going to turn it over to Tom. He will be the person in the field.
Ready? I'll go through some of this. The purpose of the bid conference, of course, to afford the prospective bidders an opportunity to raise questions to the bidding documents and for Hazen and Sawyer to clarify those points. In addition, other features of the project may be brought to the attention of the bidders. The bidding documents stand as issued. Nothing discussed during this pre-bid conference will be construed to change the intent of the bidding documents. Any potential modification which may be discussed during this pre-bid conference will not become official unless issued an addendum. That's very important. The process now is to get your questions, which we're writing, and then we will issue the appropriate addendums to clarify the whole. So we've got everybody signed in right now, I believe. And going to that, the one article we have for addendums. Again, addendums will be posted to the Empire State Purchasing Group's website. This webinar will also be posted, and you can get to that via the Village of Osling's website at www.villageofosling.org. That will be what you will receive. Written questions must be submitted via email, and we're looking for those by September 1st at 4 p.m. for consideration. Please email the questions to Karen Doherty at kdoherty@villageofosling.org. I'll spell it out. KDOHERTY@villageofosling.org. There's no spaces. And a final addendum to clarify the questions, if necessary, will be posted on BidNet on around September 14th, but anything at that late date, meaning that the bid date we're looking for is September 19th, would be minor. So that's why we're looking for the questions by the 1st of September, so everyone has a fair chance to evaluate the answers to any questions. There is, as Paul mentioned, a mandatory pre-bid walkthrough. These walkthroughs are going to be held on location at 25 Fowler Avenue, and that's at 10 a.m. And it's the following Wednesdays of August 2nd, 9th, and 16th. The contractors putting in a prime contract bid must attend at least one of these 3 meetings being held in order to place a bid on any of the contract listed above. We will have attendance sheets and sign-ins there. Now, the project scope, it is being done under the 4 separate contracts of 3G, 3H, 3E, and 3P. And it's for the construction, as Andy mentioned, for a totally new water treatment plant. The construction includes, but it's not limited to, process equipment, piping, exterior structures, yard utilities, roadways and site work, plumbing, heating, ventilating, air conditioning, electrical systems, security features, and integrated instrumentation. The facility will have a 7 million gallon per day design flow of treated waters. I think if you, oh, Chris, I'm sorry.
No problem.
Why
Pat.
don't you go through it?
No
But-
problem.
But if I could, just on the project scope, it's the construction of a new treatment plant. And there's no particular interconnection to the existing other than to cut it off at the end. So, just so you know, this is totally independent facility, not relying on the existing plant. Sorry.
That's fine. Good morning, everybody. In my way up here today, I heard the news. There was an accident down in Manhattan. Two cranes. One of them collapsed and fall onto the scaffolding on 10th Avenue and 44th Street. And another crane that was in the building caught fire. The reason I'm bringing this up is that we're going into construction of, a major construction for the village of Boston. And I would like everybody to pay attention on safety for the project. Now that we cover that, Karen, would you please bring that those images up? Sure. Well, as Andy indicated at the beginning of this presentation, and Tom reiterated that, we have a very tight site for the project. The dark color areas where you see over there is the existing plant, and the location where staging space has been allocated for some of the items that we're going to require during the construction. The village of Ossining is working on getting additional space for staging and offices. That is not finalized yet, but for the current time, we do have the areas that are highlighted in color on the screen. The green is the new construction that we have. The dark colors are existing or areas where we're gonna be having staging, and therefore thereafter the completion of the project, they need to be restored to the existing conditions and better, as we show on the documents.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that what Chris was saying. This is one of the reasons. Speaking up, sorry. Yeah, this is one of the reasons that for a prime bid, there's at least one mandatory walkthrough to see this site. It's a very tight site. The existing plant's been there since the 1930s, right? We're building the new plant in the green area, like green, as Chris pointed out. There is very little room for staging and contractor parking. As Chris mentioned, the village is looking into possibly obtaining some more space, but that's not guaranteed, and that's not part of this contract. So don't count on it happening. So between the field offices, its contractor parking is going to be challenging. So whether people have to get shoveled in or make a deal with the town, that's not in the contract itself. So again, mandatory walkthrough of the site so they can understand, seeing it in real time as opposed to a site plan.
Yeah, following up on Mike's and Tom's discussion is that we're going to have the mandatory meetings. Please attend at least one of the three, or if you need additional information, you can attend all three of them. We're going to be available over there for orientation and discussion on the availability of spaces and stuff like that. As noted before, any questions we need to come in writing into the village of Ossining. Any responses that we give either here or on the side, they are not going to count towards the contract documents. It's just exchange of information that is being verbally between two people discussing the project. If you don't mind, can you go to the next? An item that I thought that is crucial to bring to your attention back in 2018. Hazen contracted with Haley and Outreach to do a geotechnical report on the project. The report is going to be distributed to addendum number 1. It's listed on the section 01010 currently, but it's not part of the document that you already saw on the village website. I will be adding that document for your reference. That document indicates that there is mercury contamination in 2 areas. It's boring number 4 and boring number 5. It is below the yellow highlighted area over there. That area needs to be tested, and any soil that is contaminated needs to be disposed based on OSHA regulations. In addition to that, I would like to stress the the area that we have available to us. The driveway that you see on the site, it has a lot of utilities that they need to be relocated in order to make room for the new pipeline that we're going to have for the finished water treatment plant. Therefore, there's going to be some test pits that we're going to be required. The documents they call for, they identify several of them, but we call for an additional 7 test pits that we might be asking you to take care of in order to locate some utilities that we couldn't during the design phase. Karen, would you go to the next, please? The drawing over here shows the site where the new water treatment plant is going to go. You see a bunch of trees over there. The village of Washington already cut those trees down. There is a note on the drawings that the contractor needs to just grab and clear the site. Since the time that the trees they were cut, some smaller caliber trees, they started to grow up. So, those items, they need to be cleared out. There is a lot of items on the driveway that they need to be removed, as you can show from this drawing over here, that they need to be coordinated with the plant superintendent and also with the construction manager and all the other discipline contractors that we're going to be on hand to make sure that we don't interfere with the work of the village delivering water to the residents or the work that the other contractors are going to be doing at that time. Karen, next please. The same drawing, but with the difference of, adding the new material that we're going to have in the driveway. And as you can see, it's busy as a hell. So, coordination is going to be very important on this job. And I would like to add an additional item, as Andy and Tammy did before. The existing plant needs to stay in operation continuously. They're going to be short time shutdowns of 2 hours. You need to get approval from the village before you do shut down any of the facilities. The same thing with the electricity. Although there is an emergency generator on hand at the site that can be utilized, we're going to limit the shutdowns of electrical components to a short duration of 5 hours. Time of work, although it's been noted into the documents, I would like to reiterate that we are in a residential area. So it's important that we do follow all the guidelines for the residential area that we have. We have specific work operations over the weekends and during the night. So we would like to keep those in mind when you're proposing for the project. Karen, would you go to the next place? Okay. Some information about the water treatment plant itself. The village of Washington has 2 sources of water. One of them is from the aqueduct, and one is the Indian Brook Reservoir that we have on hand. We need to make sure that during the construction, we keep the flow to the existing water treatment plant intact. As I noticed, it's gonna be shutdowns, allow connections to the existing facilities. But the main objective over here is to maintain the operation of the existing plant. Water from those two sources, they're gonna be controlled through valving to allow to mix, the sources of water as needed by the village. They're gonna be going through coagulation. Then coagulation, we're gonna have that system, filtration, and then all the accessories that they go along with it, along with the UV system to disinfect the water. And then when it goes to the clear wall, we're gonna feed it with chemicals before it's being distributed to the residents. Solids, they're gonna be wasted through hauling. And also we're gonna have the backwashing system for the filters. Project duration, as you showed from the contract document that you already received, it's 26 days, calendar days. And we would like to keep a tight schedule in finishing within the time frame that we are allowed. Can I go to the next please? I added some rendering, some elevations from the building. It is a building that is going to have a gallery at the bottom, an operating floor, and then second floor on the top, along with all the offices and laboratory that is required for operation of the plant. Piping is going to be a major part of this work, along with the equipment that we're going to have, the pumping systems and everything else. So, pay close attention to the detail that we have on the architectural and structural drawings, along with the mechanical drawings that shows all the piping and the equipment that we have on hand. Current to the next one. This is the other two elevations of the building. It is going to be a terracotta face on the majority of the building, along with some brick. The contract is going to require special inspections. The village of Ossining will provide a third-party consultant to do the third-party inspections, along with the quality control for the concrete. But the contractor is up to you to develop your own program on those quality controls that we require for concrete or for special inspections. On to the next clip. This slide over here shows the finished product after we complete the work. Some landscaping along with the final paving of the driveway and everything else. It is required by the contract that you finish all the work before you pave the driveway. And I would like for once again to reiterate that we need to keep the existing plant in operation. So it's going to require a close coordination with the village to make sure that they deliver the water that they need throughout the contract. Tom, I'm going to send it back to you.
Yeah, and I think that's right into project coordination requirements again. We can't say it enough that, keeping the existing plan in operations is the prime overriding item for this project. Any types of shutdowns must be submitted early. It's all explained inside the specifications and the bid documents. So that's an important item. Coordination amongst all the contractors. We need good relations. We want to make sure everybody is coordinated so that concrete pours aren't getting held up, or other contractors need to get inserts put in. We're not doing so after the fact, like core drilling and so forth. Again, other work at the project site, there's nothing planned that I know of right now. But, emergencies can happen. And again, maintenance of the facility is very important. And the connections and tie-ins, as we were talking about before, very important and, need to make sure we have the flexibility to do construction and also maintain the plant.
Can I just add real quick?
Sure.
Water treatment plant is staffed 24/7. It's always in operation. I'm gonna ask Andy to talk about schedules for deliveries and sludge hauling and things, just to kind of cover that. I'm sure we'll go over it again when we're in the field for the mandatory site visits, but can you just add to that? Because it's gonna be an important part. Your staff has to be able to do their job and come and go when they need to come and go, but you also have sludge trucks and chemical deliveries and so on.
Yes, as far as daily operations, we do have a sludge pickup every day, roughly around 7 a.m. in the morning, depending on what kind of traffic they get stuck in.
And there's a tractor trailer.
Tractor trailer. So yes, and we have chlorine deliveries about once a month, chlorine gas. So that's 1 ton cylinders that are delivered. We have polyaluminum chloride delivered in a tractor trailer. So just normal chemical deliveries. And as you can see, when you get up there, the driveway is really tight. So that's why we have an easement and it needs to be cleared to widen the driveway on this project. So we can have, traffic moving. One thing I did want to bring up, like some key issues of this plant, right? So the 2 raw water sources that was mentioned earlier, obviously we have our own Indian Brook water, but we are the only users on the Old Croton Reservoir, Old Croton Aqueduct. So that Old Croton Aqueduct bulkheads right outside our filtration plant. And we have a 30-inch line that comes off of that aqueduct that feeds our low lift building. Part of this process will be to core drill through that wall of that building, and we'll be feeding directly off of our own reservoir. So there's some key moments that we have to pay attention to, like coordination on the shutdowns.
I guess as we've all said multiple times, that it is a tight site, the driveway, the only driveway is the only way in and out of the site. And one utility relocation, as Chris mentioned, is new utilities going in the road. Pick that up. The excavation for the building itself, the actual plant is going to be notched into the side of the hill. So the side facing the road is going to be a deep excavation. So there will be supportive excavation required to keep the new utilities and the roadway serviceable during construction. So again, that's another reason for the mandatory site visit, for the prime contractors that are going to bid the job. This is a very unique site, and it's a unique plant piece put into this site next to an existing operating plant. So I know you've heard it from many people here around the table, but that is really the main concern of this in this contract, is to keep everything running smoothly.
Mike, can you just mention like when both plants are operating together, that the contractor will be responsible for temporary piping and running that water back?
Yeah, the actual startup of the plant, that's going to be in this, probably the first addenda, is to get more detail as we've gone through whether temporary pumping is going to be required, because as Andy pointed out, the new plant's going to tie into the same 2 feeds that the existing plant uses, the Old Croton Aqueduct and the Indian Brook Reservoir. So there will become a time where both plants will be operational until the new plant is accepted by the village, and the old plant will be decommissioned. So that overlap time, we feel, is going to need more coordination. There'll be more detail provided on that toward the end of the project. At the end of the project, and that detail will be put into the documents and an addenda that will be shortly coming out.
And I'm sure we'll cover it when we're in the field as well, but I want to mention the reservoir and the dam are immediately adjacent to the existing water treatment plant. This work will not impact the dam, but just, the toe of the slope for the dam is right up to the edge of the pre-ox basins on the existing plant. So it further constrains the site. There are dam safety concerns. We can't be disturbing the dam itself and creating instability. Our work terminates, I think the closest piece is the tie-in to the outlet works, right, where we put the stub out during the dam reconstruction. So that work is a it's not going to impact the dam, but just be aware that dam is there, the reservoir is in service, and it's an important piece of the village's operation of the water plant.
Do either, does Hazen or Arcadis want to mention the green roof? And, that's a pretty big deal with this project.
It's a unique portion of the project from the stormwater control. The building itself is going to have a green roof on it in most of the areas. And, that's needed to comply with the stormwater regulations. Again, the site is so tight, we have, best management practices, BFP, part of the landscaping outside the plant, but the roof of the plant also, helps with that for stormwater retention and treatment and discharge. So it is a unique feature of this plant. It's a pretty large green roof.
May I just add that while you folks are looking at this, wondering where everyone's going to park, that's the one thing that the village is working on is an overflow parking area for when all 4 primes are on site and the plant is really rocking and rolling. And we know that there's going to be a lot of cars there, and it's surrounded on all ends, the property, by residential, where you won't have the ability to spill out onto the streets with your parking. We're going to have to contain everything onto the site. So we're working on that and anticipate having something in place in advance of the addenda being issued. So stand by on that.
All righty. And then labor requirements on the job, elementary and typical labor and employment, Davis-Bacon, prevailing wage rates. And funding requirements, though, on this project, we have NYSCFC terms and conditions. Please pay attention to those. There are MBE, WB, and SDVOB requirements, American Iron and Steel, and there are contractor acknowledgements that need to be filled out on the bid book there, I believe. All right.
Just the village currently has grants, and they're pursuing additional grants for the project. So the terms and conditions of EFC are related to that, and are somewhat in flux at this time. So the contract documents issued stand as they were issued, unless they're modified by addendum. So just be aware of those MWBE and SDBOB requirements and the EFC requirements that are included in the project manual.
All right, and then regulatory requirements. The thing to note, under permits, make sure you put in the monies for obtaining permits. Well, this is a Village of Ossining project. It's contained within the town of Ossining, and the town of Ossining permits are not waived as far as cost. Any Village of Ossining permit has been waived. I'm not sure what those might be, but just be aware the building is being built under the town of Ossining requirements, and their permits and their fees are still need to be accounted for on this project. The instruction to bidders, pretty straightforward. The submission of bids is going to be September 19th at 10 a.m. We'll correct the one item under where it said 2 o'clock in the document. Like to point out sales and use tax. Sales tax is waived, but only for those products that are incorporated into the project. sheeting and so forth, you still need to pay your property, your sales tax on those items. Retainage, submittal of payrolls, that is extremely important. Payments will get stopped if the certified payrolls for those on the job site are not put in. Let's see. Contractor, the bidders have a checklist and bid forms. Please use them. Be aware of all the implications on that. Contractor required testing and inspections. While there are special inspections being performed on this job via the town of Ossining, the contractor is still responsible for doing their testing, for example, excavation and so forth. There can be overlap, but it is a requirement. The contractor is not to depend on the special inspections. So where you see a requirement for testing, please do so. Documentation services, there's what product we use in Procore? Procore on the job. Please get familiar with that. The cost for such, and make sure you can get trained on that. That's how this project will proceed.
Yeah, Tom, you can
Yep.
speak to that. You know, Chris will be running the Procore through Hazen and Sawyer, and that's an electronic submission of shop drawings, responses, RFIs, RFCs, you know, anything that requires, say, the paperwork for the project will be through Procore. And you just need the access. We're setting it up, and there's no additional licenses required for that. You'll be given an access password, you know, whether it's the village, Hazen, Arcadis, the contractors, and that's how you're gonna have to do all of your paperwork per se. Except for things like architectural samples, you can't transmit those electronically. So,
And the anticipated project schedule, we touched a little bit on it. The bids are due September 19th, 2023 at 10 a.m. Prevailing time to Susan Donnelly, village clerk, the village of Ossining at 16 Croton Avenue, Ossining, New York. Award of the contract is anticipated 45 days from bid date. Notice to proceed to be issued around September 3rd. Oh, what did I say? September? Yeah.
we're not that fast.
All right. And a long time coming. That's what anxious. So December 3rd, 2023, and substantial completion is 1,126 calendar days from the notice to proceed. And final completion per contract times in the agreement currently 45 calendar days after substantial completion. And with that, I'd like to open it to the floor. Any questions you'd like to
Before we
present?
do, can, Chris or Mike, can you talk about the documentation services? There's a requirement for the contractor to, and I don't remember the name of it, to have the photo documentation of the project.
There is a Marvista, it's a part of the contract, it's an allowance. I don't remember the exact number that we have in the allowance, but it will provide the photographic documentation during the construction duration. They will provide the hardware, but the contractor needs to install that hardware on specific location where we're gonna be selecting on the site, so we can have a good view of the project site, specifically the construction sequence that we want to have. So the installation is on your side. The hardware is going to be on Marvista's side.
Yeah, this is the general prime contractor.
In addition to that, the village of Ossining, besides the photographic documentation of the contract, has been sign an agreement with NIC, who are there in the room today, to provide the integration of the water treatment plant. So you need to work closely together with them to make that happen.
The NIC scope of work with the village will also be posted as part of the addendum. So you can see what is covered by that agreement. And NIC acting as the integrator for the village for the new plant.
So NIC, they were hired to design this system because that's in their wheelhouse. But everybody can bid on this project. That's a system integrator. We wanted a company that understood the existing system, so we had continuity between both the old plant and the new plant. That's why we went this way. That's pretty much it.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions they'd like to ask now? And again, just as a reminder, anything stated here needs to be confirmed by addendum.
Yeah, what the budgets are for these contracts. Do we have what the budgets are for these contracts, all four of them?
We are gonna leave it up to everybody to come up with their own pricing. At this point, all four primes will generate their own estimate. So we are not putting the budget on the street.
Morning, I have a couple questions. The mercury soil that you mentioned, will there be a bid item with a quantity to pay for that?
No.
Okay,
Oh.
so,
There's an allowance.
okay, there'll be an allowance to handle that, okay. My second question was related to the camera system. You said that hardware will be provided by the owner, but which contract will be responsible to install it?
It's the general contractor.
The general contractor. Okay, so we'll have to get prices to install that.
The allowance is under the general contract, so that allowance is gonna be.
So that allowance is used for the general contractor to pay for the installation?
No, the installation of the components is gonna be part of your lump sum item.
The allowance is to pay for Multivista's equipment.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And a little bit more about Multivista. So it's not only just a visual system that will document how the plant's being built, but as the operation and maintenance manual is generated in the future, they have the ability with their software and how they're going to tie in the final product of on-site training so that an operator 30 years down the road can pull up this documentation and be like, how is this system supposed to run? How is this UV system supposed to run? One thing I did want to bring up about the UV system, that's a big component of this plant. The UV system is designed to handle MIB in water, which is a byproduct of algae that cause taste and odors with this peroxide system. The UV system is sized so large to handle this. The regular, let's just say the normal operating system of the UV system is designed for disinfection. When we get an outbreak of MIB, we will increase the intensity of the additional reactors. The plant itself, with the generator that was put in roughly 10 years ago, is sized large enough to run the smaller portion of the UV system and the whole entire plant. But the additional UV reactors will not be running off a generator. So I just want to make that clear in the beginning, because if we get to that situation, we can, if there was ever an MIB situation and we were out of power, we could always bring in a backup generator. But to over design for that particular situation of possibly a Con Ed outage and an MIB situation, it doesn't make sense. But just that's a question that might come up in the future on the electrical side.
One item about questions and answers. I would like you, when you submit a request for information, to identify either the drawing or the section and article number that you have the comment on, so we can respond to that particularly without confusing what the answer or the question.
Good morning. Will there be a conduit and cable schedule being released?
Yes.
will be added to the current documents. It was left out from the documents that are posted, but we will add it.
I get-
One of the drawings, shows the size of the conduits that they need to be run. The cable schedule is not there, so we'll add that to the documents from them.
And one thing between the general and the electrical contract, in this contract, the general is going to be constructing the duct banks, all the underground electrical work. The electrical will be responsible to provide, pull, terminate all the cables and wire required for that.
The town permits that were mentioned, is the town aware that we're going to be calling for pricing? And if so, is there a contact?
I need to clarify that because we're not sure. At this point, I don't think you're gonna have to coordinate getting the permits, but the actual cost might be waived. So that information will get out to you before you guys put your proposal in. But actually coordinating the permits, you have to coordinate the permits. Yeah, I just think that there will not be a fee, but I don't want to say for sure until we get that final answer.
As issued, the bid documents say that the contractor is responsible for getting billed.
Cost. There might
Right.
not be
It
a cost.
specifically says the village waives their fees, but it doesn't mention the town. So until we get clarification on that, assume that it's what it says in the document. But as Andy said, I would anticipate that Hazen will be addressing that in an addendum.
And sales tax, the village of Washington is exempt from sales taxes. So get aware of that.
Yeah, but only to the extent of the products being incorporated
Yeah.
into the project. Right, I think we've reached a conclusion. Thank you, everyone, for coming. And look forward to seeing you over the next 3 weeks at one of the meetings out in the field.
And it's not just the primes again, any sub material men, anybody can attend these walkthroughs. But it's only the primes that need to attend at least one if they're going to put a bid in on the job.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, replacement not gonna take place. Delays on the shutdown for the others. They're gonna push the project out. The PO is